guys.
Test scenario and test case. Here,
Pause this here and go into my notes. Some of these videos are like, it's out there, but it doesn't really go into specifics of what we really need. So it's important for me that I supplement all that to you. Let's talk about test case. What is a test case? A test case is a set of instructions that a tester can follow in order to validate, meaning pass or fail, a feature. Okay. Sometimes they may interchange with a test scenario. But more importantly, the actual idea of test scenario is just the title. Title of a test case. And then you have the detailed steps. So we are most focused on is what is a test case, and your job is going to be writing up test cases. And your test case is going to include a test scenario, which is basically, or a test case title that's going to be under that test case. Question? Why do we need these test cases? Well, if you don't write up your test cases, meaning a set of instructions for a tester to follow to figure out whether this feature is going to work or not, it's going to be very difficult to maintain what needs to be tested or the requirement traceability matrix that you saw from the last class. If you don't have it written down, you're not organized, you won't be able to do the task properly. So therefore, you have to write up your test cases and store them somewhere so that users, other testers, can use those instructions and be able to test it. One of the things is not all testers stay in the company for too long. You may be moved not just from one company to another company that you might want to switch, but you might also get moved from one department to another. One day your responsibility might be to be testing, let's say this hotels page from Priceline. The next season you might be testing flights and someone else testing this hotels page. So if these test cases to test this hotels page is not written down somewhere in an organized way, if someone else gets into this department of testing the hotels, they won't be able to figure out what to do. So therefore, all of these features must have a test case for them, for testing them. And that's the purpose of the test cases. And they have to be organized in a well fashion. And nowadays we have softwares that will organize them, store them, and you can even put pass or fail in it to create beautiful looking reports that you can generate, and you can display those reports or use those reports in reporting your team what failed, what passed. The end of this class today, I'm going to give you access to one of those softwares. You're going to download it, and you're going to follow the videos to download the instructions on that. and we will start working on that software starting from next week. But right now, I just want you to understand a little bit about the idea of a test case, and then we're actually going to do this hands-on. Next class, which is next Saturday, you're going to be writing test cases hands-on. So just bear with me on this. But today, we're going to move forward with different types of tests. All right. The very first concept that you need to know is a functional test versus non-functional test. Excuse me. A functional test is a feature that user can interact and the feature reflects something. Or does something. For example, this page right here. A user is able to type in New York, select dates, how many people, and then click on this button, and that's going to give them a list of hotels. So I'm able to interact with these functionalities here. It does something. It moves. Anything like that, it's called a functional element or a functional test. So if I'm testing something that has an interactable possibility, that becomes a functional test. Now, a non-functional test is something the user is not able to interact directly or interact directly with. So what feature is non-functional over here? Take a look at this image. This is a non-functional feature, meaning this image is supposed to be here. One day you might find that there's no image, and that could be a bug because the developer probably did not link this image properly and it's not showing up here. But notice that if I click on this, nothing happens. There is no function other than just cosmetics of this image for this website. It makes it beautiful, but it actually doesn't interact. It doesn't respond. It doesn't roll into something. Does that make sense? The difference between functional and non-functional? Any questions?
Oh, yes. So, functional and non-functional features, like the functional features that user can handle, and like I asked for the reservation of a room that might use 2 adults and 1 kid.
Mm-hmm.
That is functional.
Yes.
But non-functional is the price of that room that has been set by the hotel management. Is it like that? That I cannot change?
It's kind of hard to say because if it has any kind of movement and if if your question is if that has movements, then it is going to be functional. Like,
Okay,
like
so
take a look at this link
yeah,
right here. Book up to 5 hotel stays, and notice that if I hover over, this gives me a finger icon and I can click on it. This is a link. So this is a functional test for me. If I click here, notice it goes somewhere. A user is able to interact with it. This becomes a functional test.
okay,
Versus,
so yeah, go ahead first.
versus, let me see, this image right here, or this panel. Notice if I click on this panel, nothing happens. If I click on these words, nothing happens.
Yeah,
This panel and this image right here is your non-functional test. It cannot be done with your automation that you're going to learn. A human has to come up here and actually look through their eyes and say, yeah, I see that image there. I see this panel there. Because it very much happens. I've seen bugs that this panel gets displayed, but this image doesn't display. There's no image. And how are we going to catch that bug? Well, we're going to have a non-functional test. We have to write up a non-functional test case. And your non-functional test case is going to be, go and make sure this panel here introducing Priceline Experiences has the image of this Rome Colosseum. And a tester would have to go in there with their own eyes and validate to make sure it's there. Make sense? Notice this Book Now button. I'm able to click on it. If I can click on it and interact with it, this becomes a functional test. This is a functional element. Therefore, this is a functional testing here. You might be asked, the question recruiter is going to ask you is, what's a non-functional test case? Or how do you do non-functional testing? What is a non-functional test? You might say images and graphs that users cannot interact with are called non-functional. How do you test them?
Can we test these pictures with automation?
No, it cannot be done.
Oh,
That's where the manual tester comes.
Correct. You have to do some sort of manual testing.
okay,
Not
so that means
100% stuff can be automated.
so still that means the when you click in any web page or website, the initial features that appears is not handled by the user is non-functional. Is it like that?
Correct. So all these panels, I mean, you can name it anything. So anything that you cannot interact with, like this blue color, you can't really interact with this blue color. What if tomorrow this color turns to red? Well, that's gonna be a problem, because what if the product owners did not want it red? The requirement did not ask for red color, but the developer messed up something on their code, and you will be shocked that this color comes from a particular code that they write. It's called RBGB code, which I'm gonna give you a class on HTML, and that's gonna clarify. And you will be actually developing a website, by the way, in my course. So there will be one class where I will show you how to build a website. It's very easy, and I'm gonna give you an assignment to go in there and build your own website. And very simple level. Obviously, it's not going to be all this fancy, but you will see that these colors are basically like 8-digit code. You put in that code like ABC1234Z, that gives you like a blue color or a turquoise color. So if you mess up one letter in that code, the color can change. So that colors aspect of you going in here and testing, it cannot be done through automation. A human would have to go in and test this with their own eyes. You have to actually go to the site, look at it, and say, yeah, I see blue color. It's a pass. Or no, I don't see blue color. It's a fail. These tests are called non-functional because they don't have a function. They're just there, sitting there. This image is there, sitting there. It's not doing anything. You can't interact with it. You can't click on it. You can't type anything to it. This element, notice, over here, I'm able to type anything. I can say Dallas. Notice it's very smart because by me writing DALL, immediately a call went into their server, and in their server, there is a logic there says, I think you're looking for Dallas, Texas, or it could be Dallas, Oregon. But chances are you want Dallas, Texas, so I'm going to list that on top. And then every other things that I find, I'm going to list it based on my understanding of what you might be looking for. Okay? So this field in itself already has a function. Your test case one of your test case might be when user type in the word DAL, a drop down should show up, and in the drop down, similar cities should be displayed. That will be one of your test cases. Tomorrow you could see a bug that you're typing Dallas, nothing shows up in here. That will be a bug. This test can be automated through Selenium and Java. I will show you how to take this information and validate and make a test case out of it so that you don't have to test it anymore. Your software, your code is going to test it for you. Okay? All right. That's all you need to know, guys, about functional and non-functional testing. Nobody's going to go in any deeper than that. It's just more of your concept. Now, couple of things goes into non-functional testing, not just an example of image. Static image that you saw. You saw panels that don't move. All these static stuff, they don't move or do anything. They can't interact with them. You saw colors, and you can just add whatever into it. List goes on and on. Those are your non-functional elements, and you do need to test them, by the way. They need to be tested by a human. So that's why there is a need for a manual tester here and there. It's there, guys. All QA teams have manual testers. My team has 3 manual testers. But don't expect to go out there and get a manual testing job because these guys never quit. It's like an awesome job, good money. You don't need any coding skills. So people that are stuck with these jobs, they don't want to leave their jobs, and you won't find them. Okay, you would be very lucky. So I'm not going to send you out there with this manual testing, but you're going to learn all that skills. As a matter of fact, in 2 weeks, you're going to learn everything that a manual tester needs to deploy or apply into their job. But again, you finish this 16 weeks course, you're going to be in so much demand, you are going to get that job. Don't go for manual testing. Now, several other things that they might ask you in here that becomes a more of a non-functional category, and that's called load testing. Okay.
I have a question, Vijay.
Yeah.
So this non-functional test is basically a manual testing, right?
Not necessarily, because the 2 other things that I'm going to throw in here, you can automate those.
And you just said that we don't need to go for manual testing. So those who will be doing automated testing, so we won't have to do manual testing.
You have to do manual testing. Here's why. Let's say you are an automation engineer and you are given responsibility to automate test case in this panel only. Don't take it lightly. This panel is like full of test cases. I can see 30 test cases coming out of this panel alone, and I might still be wrong. There could be more, because look at all these options: flights, bundle, look at all these combinations in here. So as an automation,
Getting some background noise.
yeah, Sanjit, let me mute you 1 second. I'm getting some background noise. All right, cool. So you as an automation engineer, you're not going to be able to build an automation if you don't know how to test this. If you don't know how to test this, how are you going to write a test case? So your first step is going in here as a manual tester. You have to have that insight of a good manual tester that, hey, I'm going to start my test case with this hotel first. I'm going to go in Dallas, and I'm going to select Dallas, and I'm going to go in here and pick some dates in the next month, not current month, next month, and random dates like that. And first, I'm going to leave whatever's in here, and I'm going to search for hotel, and then I'm going to evaluate to see if those hotels show up. That's your first test case. Simple. You start with very simple. Second is you're like, okay, now I'm going to mess things up a little bit. I'm going to go in here and I am going to choose a different city. Let's say I'm going to go to Dhaka, outside of this country. And if I see a suggestion, does that happen or not? And again, I can choose a random one. You could mix things up and say, I'm going to choose a month. Let me see if I can break it. What if I choose for a month of stay? And I'm going to go in here, mess things up a little bit. I'm going to make it 2 rooms. I'm going to increase that to like 4 adults, 2 kids. And I'm going to pick this up and see if it still works in here. And I'm going to hit done. And now I'm going to click on find hotels and then see if still hotels show up, or does it break it that it doesn't show up. That's your second test case. Third test case, you might come in here and say, okay, in this third round, I'm going to say add a car. And then I'm going to say find your hotel and then see if that breaks things. You see the point? You are going to be manually testing this first and writing up your steps, which I'm going to show you in next Saturday's class and how to write these steps. Once you have these steps written down, now you're going to be using your Java Selenium skills that you're going to learn in this program to take these manual steps and make them into automation so that your code will jump up here and like a ghost go through these, type in all this, hit the button, and even be smart enough to look at the result of how many hotels got displayed, and based on that result, tell you whether it's a pass or it's a fail, and give you a beautiful report back while you're sleeping. You just open up the report after 15 to 30 minutes when all these tests has been done by your computer. You look at the report and you say, oh, I got 0 failures. Let's go ahead and move that code to production. Or I got 2 failures. Now you just focus on those 2 failures only. And then you say, I think this is a bug. Let me go ahead and write a bug task, give it to this developer because I know he developed it. And then you start working with him on the fix and then testing again and going back and forth like that. Did that answer your question?
Okay, before moving forward, I have one question because still I have some confusion on the functional and non-functional test.
Mm-hmm.
Like you remain on the same page where you are right now. Can you go back to that page?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can see the right top side, there is a picture.
Hang on. It's up here.
Yeah, please. Okay, so we can see a picture of a very beautiful lady for the hotel advertisement.
Yes.
That we cannot do anything, right?
Right.
So this is a still picture or still image.
Correct.
So if it is a PowerPoint, like there are a lot of pictures that allows the user to click to see the next picture and on, or this is a video clips that the user cannot change but can watch. So will it be the functional or non-functional test?
It will be a functional test because, like you said,
So,
user is
yeah, anything moves is functional, right?
Yes, anything moves, it's functional. That means if I posted this site right here and you are able to click on this button to go to next slide, that's a functional test.
That is functional. Okay, all right, I
You
got
are
it.
able to push this button for this video to start, that is a functional test case. But whether this video image is getting displayed here or not, that is a non-functional test.
Yeah.
A human would have to go in here and say, oh, yeah, I see the video posted. Oh, I see the slides posted. Everything looks the way it should be. That will be a non-functional test, okay? All right. Let's move on to some of these two other concepts. One is called load testing. Let me just number them like this. Load testing. And number two, stress testing. Okay. Now these fall under an umbrella called performance testing. Which means testing the capability, performance capability of an application. Okay, this has nothing to do with whether you would be able to make that reservation or not. Whether it works or not, it has nothing to do with that. But what it does is it's checking how well it's doing it. It's more like a how question in that performance testing. It is non-functional because it's not really testing the functionality, whether the reservation is buggy. It can make the reservation, but what it's going to do is it's going to check how well is it doing it. Now here's what it comes to. There's two types of ways you can test the performance, meaning how well. So let me just put this in here. The question you would be asking here is how well is the feature performing? And number one, load test, what that means is testing the feature with 1,000 users. Okay. What does that mean? Why would I want to test this making reservations with 1,000 users at the same time? Why would I want to do that? It's because what if this works when I go in and make reservations, but 1,000 users trying to make reservations at the same time, the server in that company does not have enough resources and it fails. It doesn't respond anything. You will see the page is loading and nothing shows up. Well, that's a problem because historically, people don't want to stay on a website for more than 8 seconds if the page does not load within that time. After 8 seconds, they get tired and move on to the next page. If they do that, if they move out of this Priceline to another website because this Priceline website is not loading, that's going to be a loss of that customer from this website, from this company to another company. That's going to be a loss of just hundreds of dollars for that one customer lost, but millions of dollars for 1,000 customers lost worldwide. Does that make sense? So a company, when they're building these websites, web applications, they are also doing something, it's called a load test. And in that load test, they are automating 1,000 customers logging in and making reservations at the same time, trying to see if that's still possible. Whenever you add more than one testers to test the performance, a large number of users logging in simultaneously. Okay? A large number of users for interacting with the feature simultaneously or at the same time. This is the word, fancy word for at the same time, simultaneously. That would be your load testing. Any question about load testing?
No, but I have once, might be the silly question. This belongs to the category of non-functional test?
Correct. Because you're not really testing the functionality of the reservation, whether you can make reservation. We know you can make reservation, but we don't know if 1,000 people can make reservations at the same time, because if this fails, it doesn't say that your reservation functionality is broken. It might say that the server is not powerful enough to handle 1,000 customers. That's why it becomes a non-functional test. You're not testing the functionality of reservation. You're looking at the load. How many, you're testing the server. You're not testing the reservation actually at that moment. You are testing whether the server can handle 1,000 users or not.
So if it passes, then what?
If it passes, it tells you that you got good resources, you got good server in that company set up, that it's capable of doing 1,000. Now, is it 1,000? Probably not. It's probably 1 million is Priceline would be testing. But that comes to this stress test, okay? Testing the maximum number of users interacting simultaneously with a specific feature. So the difference between load test and stress test is load test is you're trying to see if I add 10,000 users logging in and trying to make reservation at the same time, is it gonna break? So the question, a couple of questions you would be asking. Does the performance slow down. And of course it's going to slow down because the server can't handle so many people all at once. It is doing lightning speed, but that lightning speed also has some limitations in there. It's not infinite speed. There is a number to that speed. So it's going to slow things down. Now the question is, how much? Does the performance slow down, and how much? And at that point, your executives team or IT team is going to meet together and decide, is it worth it to buy another, $50,000 supercomputer to add into this? Those are some of those decisions that the executives and ITs are going to make. You have nothing to do with this. By the way, I just want to tell you, your job ends right here. Static images and colors. You are not a performance tester. By the way, these performance testers, they use a tool called LoadRunner. You can learn this on the web and make over $150,000. Really not that hard software. I don't teach that though. So if you wanted to learn that and then go into performance testing, this is all you're going to be doing. You will learn a lot more than 2 things that I'm going to show you today. And that's all your area is going to be. It's an awesome job, actually. You really don't mess with going into a website making reservations. Instead, you do some configurations to run customers into those websites, like many thousands, millions. And you get a report saying how slow it was and stuff like that. It's an awesome job. Why am I teaching you this right now? Because the recruiters will ask you, even though you don't have to do this thing, they will ask you to test to see. You're saying you got 4 years of experience. Well, I'm going to test the water to see if you ever heard of load testing. If you say, I don't know what load testing is, that doesn't mean that you can't do the QA job. That's just going to tell me as an interviewer that you actually don't have 4 years experience. You know the material, but you don't have 4 years experience. Because in your 4 years, you have talked with your colleagues, you have come across this word called load testing or stress testing. Okay? And that's why I'm giving you this. So just be aware of that. And you don't need to go any deeper than this, because the recruiters that are going to be asking you questions, they don't even really know what this load testing means. They actually got a script of questions that they're going to ask you, and you just need to hit a few buttons. Make sure you say a few things that they got their answers right in front of them, that they kind of match, and that you're confident. That's all. You might think, oh, they're asking me all these questions. They know it all. Actually, they don't. They're not technical people. If they knew this stuff, they wouldn't be a recruiter. They would be actually working as an automation engineer. Does that make sense? So more of that, I'll talk to you about the mindsets and when you go into the market and so forth. So that will boost up your confidence. Anyway, so how does the performance slow down and how much? And those are the kind of decisions that are going to be made under this load testing. Stress testing is almost the same thing, except you try to find the maximum number of users that will break the system. Meaning, you try 10,000 and you're like, it's working, but it's slow, which is okay, but it's still working. Then you try 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, slows down a lot. 100 million, and guess what? Nothing happens. You can't make reservations. The program crashes, the servers blow up, and it's all gone. That's your stress testing. You are trying to stress the system to the maximum to find out the limit. Max limit a server can handle, or the computer can handle. Server application. At that point, you're not really testing the application, you're testing the hardware components, whether that's going to allow. And let's say you find out the maximum. Let's say 2 million is max. Well, that's a good question, because you got to tell your executives that, hey, we can only handle 2 million. That's our limit. And the executives are like, well, we only got like handful of customers. We're just starting to build this right now. We don't have 2 million customers logging in. Data shows we got maybe 1,000 customers log in all at the same time. Then they don't want to go and buy another computer to add more space and more capacity to do that. But they do need to know, executives need to know, what is my max limit on this machine? How many can it handle? With that they can make executive decisions saying, okay, guys, we got now we got 1 million customers logging in and our capacity is 1 million. Hey, start looking into scaling it, making it bigger so we go into 10 million right now. How much is it going to cost me? Those are the kinds of decisions that they're going to make. Any questions?
Just asking, I'm not sure. Is it somehow related to the boundary value testing? This is what, or is it a different thing?
Boundary value is another type of performance test, but I don't want to go over that in the class.
Okay. Okay, so this is only just try to find the load and is the maximum limit of the hardware or the website.
Correct.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Correct. And you're right, Stanley. You are actually testing the hardware pieces, not really the application in this performance testing. But they fall under non-functional because they're not part of your functional web application test. This is it, guys. I'm going to stop right here with this functional test and you can forget about it. Don't go any deeper than this. You'll be wasting your time. But if you're curious and you learned it all and you're like, I want to learn some more, go search up more, because there is a whole bunch of performance testing and this list goes on and on. Your job is going to be mainly functional tests. So I'm going to deep dive right here, right now. So what are the different kinds of functional tests? And there's a lot. This will branch out into more. And that's where your fundamental questions are going to be coming in. So, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No problem.
So this the stress testing is a non-functional hardware testing. So what type of hardware is it? Is it physical hardware or virtual hardware or both?
Both.
Okay.
I don't want to elaborate because a lot of people don't know what virtual is. Looks like you have some background in it, so we will talk about virtualization later. So types of functional testing, guys, this is where you belong. You got something called, you've seen it yesterday, we talked about black box testing, white box testing. Let's start with that. So you got a category called white box testing. Anybody remembers what that is?
Yes, where are we going to see the code?
Yes, it's white, so it's see-through. So just think about like this. I used to get confused. I'm like, which one is black? Which one is white? Why is it named it like that? Well, I would be like, okay, I got to come up with a system. White is see-through, black is not. So see-through, meaning you can see through the code. This is you're testing the code. It's testing the code itself, meaning you're looking at the code and you are telling your developer, hey, this statement you wrote, that java dot blah 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 dot if statement is not accurate, this logic is bad, and you need to fix that. Well, QAs can't do that. So we don't have that skills. So not performed by QAs. You won't have to worry about that. That's not your job. White box testing is done by developers only. But you have access to their code. If you wanted to take a peek, you can look at their code and maybe learn from it. As a matter of fact, the Java that you're going to learn in my class and Selenium, it kind of gives you an idea to go in and look through their code. You might get lucky and find some logic that's wrong. In that case, if you're doing that, you are actually doing the white box testing at that moment. But you're not required to as a QA. Developers do that. What does that mean? That means one developer is going to write the code, two other developers in their own team or another team will need to read through the code and either approve or deny. This is called peer review. Code peer reviewed. For approval. Without those peer review approval, they won't get merged. Okay, this is white box testing. Another test in white box testing is called unit tests. When the developers are writing codes, they are also writing code to test their own code. They have the capability of. And that's what unit tests are. That means developers writing code to test their own code. Sounds complicated, and it might be. I don't know how these unit tests look like to even this day. I don't know. What I know is, let's say they are coding for this panel to show right here with this button. They can have a code, intelligent code, saying that this button here is going to be active, meaning see how it kind of flows. Sometimes you'll see a button gets disabled, like grayed out. They can have a code in there to make sure when it's active and when it's disabled. If you do a wrong search here, wrong parameters, this could get disabled. And they can have a logic for testing that automatically to see if this button is getting disabled or not. Complicated. I don't know how to do it. You don't need to know how to do it. That's why developers get paid a lot to do it. And also, honestly, 90% of them don't do it. They skip doing it because they want to skip time, and nobody's catching them saying, hey, you wrote this code, but I don't see a unit test for that code. Nobody's on their tail. So they're like, why would I waste my time? My code works. I don't need a test code because that's going to take me another maybe 2 hours to do that. Recruiter will ask you, what are unit tests? At minimum, with confidently you should say, these are the tests that are white box tests, that are code. Developers are writing it to test their own code. Okay, that's it. There's nothing else that you need to know. Now, the next is black box testing. We'll take a break in about 3 minutes and come back at 11 o'clock. In black box testing, this means you can't see the code. It's black. QAs do this testing. Test only what you can see in the functionality. I don't need to type this. I just kind of repeat. Trying to think if I can say it in any other way. So you're not seeing the code, but you're seeing what the code produces. So testing the end result of the code. So the end result of the code is this beautiful website. That's what you're going to test. You are not going into the under the hood trying to see if those complicated wirings are working or not. There's another term called gray box testing. This is a combination of black box and white box testing, meaning you do a little bit of a both. That means you may be writing unit test in here. There is a set of people that are capable of doing this. It's called SDET. You will see another position like software test automation engineer. You will also see another candidate called software developer at test. Developer at or SDAT or SDAT. I don't know. I thought SDET, software development at test, something like this. I didn't dive into that much. So these guys make more money, of course, because they have the development coding skills, and they will be doing testing on the site itself, the pretty things, everything black box. They will do that. They will go in and also they can do white box testing, reviewing code, and even go in there and write unit tests. Okay, that's all you need to know about white box, black box, and gray box testing. Any question about this? All right, let's take 5 minutes break and we'll come back and focus on this black box testing because this is what's going to be performed by us. And I'm going to break down various other types of tests that's in here that you need to be familiar with as a QA tester and be able to decide which test I need for this particular feature at this particular situation. You need that insight into this. So we'll go deep dive on that. Let's take 5 minutes break. Go ahead and type in back in the chat, informing me that you are back. I see one person typed in back on the chat. Anyone else back? Okay. 2 people. All right. That's good. Now let's talk about types of black box testing, because that's what you're going to be doing. The very first time, suppose the developers, 3-4 developers, they coded this page right here for the first time, and they hand it over to you and said, hey, Stanley, we got this already into the dev environment, and you can go ahead and check things out to see if everything is working or not. So they added a whole lot of stuff all at once, and you go in there and you're like, okay, I knew it was coming, but now it's there in the dev environment, and let me go ahead and check this out. So you come in here and you look at this and you're like, okay, page is looking good, and let me see if this works. So you go in here and you try to find some hotels in different places. What this is called is exploratory testing. Exploratory testing. Done generally at the initial development phase. Meaning the feature just came in, very new. The feature is new. And you have not developed a whole lot of test cases around it yet. It's not an established feature. It's a new feature. All right. You need to do this exploratory testing because that will give you an idea of determining how I'm going to test this and how many test cases I'm going to need. So the questions you might arise from here that you might want to ask is how to test the feature. How will I test the feature better? How many test cases do I need? And so forth. Kind of a basic. You go in there and you're like, get an eyeball eye understanding of, all right, I'm going to test it from this angle. I'm going to test it from this angle. You try to break it at this point. Okay, you're like you're trying to break the system. So explore, try different actions to see if you can break it. And that's your exploratory testing. Any questions about that? The recruiters will ask you, can you tell me the different types of testing that you have done? Your very first should be exploratory testing. I have done exploratory testing where I would go in and interact with the feature when it's first getting built, look at the feature from various angles, try to see if I can break it, explore it, decide how many test cases I'm going to need, and what else can I do to test this better. That's how you're going to put this information into a sentence together. We're going to practice more later on, so no worries. Second, and these are very, very important ones. I skipped a whole lot of those that are also in the PowerPoint, and if you want, you can study more. But at minimum, what I'm going to give you here is you must know this because they will ask you. Smoke test. A smoke test is a test done initial phases, kind of like the exploratory testing, but now you have test cases. So tests done initial phases of the build, test cases already generated or written and known. That means you already know the test cases because you already done the exploratory testing and you have formulated some test cases. But these are not very detailed test cases. These are just simple skimming level test cases. Does not deal with the whole functionality of the feature. Okay. It's like smoke. Why do they call it smoke? It's like there's a fire there that's causing the smoke. You're just looking for the smoke. You're not going into seeing why there is fire. Where is this fire? And is the fire causing the smoke can be prevented or something? No, you're just looking, sniffing, really quickly, just sniffing for smell or if you see any kind of smoke. So how would you do that over here? There's two things you can do. One, you might be given a smoke test to go in to Priceline and just open up every single page and see if you find anything fishy or if you find any smoke. So your smoke test might require you to go click on hotels and just look at this and make sure there is no error popping up. You don't actually have to interact anything here. You go click on cars, you open up this page, and you wait a few seconds, and then you see if this panel shows up and no error pops up saying, hey, this page is unavailable, or you are not logged in, whatever that might mean, that it's not doing something out of the ordinary. And you go through every single room, every single page in that building, and you are sniffing for any kind of smoke. These type of tests are called smoke tests. Any questions about smoke testing? The next level of testing is called sanity test. Now this goes a little bit deeper. So sanity test is like, but it's still not a holistic test. It's deeper testing than smoke test. Just like the word describes sanity, meaning is it sane or did it go insane? that it got messed up a bit or something. So deeper testing than smoke test. Not initial phase, not initial phases of development. You have stable, already have a stable application. What does that mean? That means you have this Priceline website. It's already stable, but they wanted to add a new page called cruises. All the other pages are still there, working as expected, but now they want to add a new page called cruises, and you are going to be sanity testing this particular feature of cruises, making sure that because of this cruises new page, it's not messing up all the other pages that are supposed to open up. So you would still go in and then check, bundle and save to see, okay, is this page maintaining its sanity because this cruises page was added? So it's kind of like that smoke test, but again, all the other pages were already in existence. You are still kind of skimming through it. At this point in Sanity, you can actually go interact with a few things, but you're not going to do everything. You're not going to book a reservation. That's going to be too much for this Sanity test. We're going to have a new name, a different name for that. So you just go in and make sure that this cruises page did not break any other pages. You do very simple task. You might click here and there, whatever else you want to add. But again, you're not going to make a reservation. You're not going to go through the whole step because that wouldn't be sanity testing. That would become something else. Question about sanity tests.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Still.
Yeah.
So, does it partially belong to the staging?
Again, staging, dev, and production, remember that flow. Your first, which environment are you going to test this first? You're going to test this in dev environment first. And sanity testing, actually, it's a good question. This is generally done in staging, in dev. Well, I shouldn't write this because you are going to be testing this in dev environment and staging environment and production environment oftentimes. So I hate to categorize saying, okay, this you only do this in dev environment, but you don't do this in staging environment. That is actually not the case. Now that we have automation, we do the smoke testing and sanity testing in all environments, dev, staging, and production. Okay. So you're not limited to one environment.
But this is not the complete testing, right?
It's not complete testing. Now we're getting into this complete testing. It's called regression.
Okay.
Regression test or regression testing. Sometimes it's just called regression. Guys, this is by far the most important word. There's various ways of using this word. Example, I need to regress the feature. You will hear something like, when is the regression? So in various terms, you're going to see this word come up in your team. They're very familiar with this word. Regression is a set, is not a set, I would say, is a collection of all test cases developed before, test cases already developed. So regression testing is you're testing a collection of all test cases that has already developed. I don't want to put any more to it. I think this short phrase sums it all up. More I give you, more it's going to be harder for you to remember. So what does that mean? That means when you went to exploratory testing right here, you looked at, you're like, I can make hotel reservations, and I see several ways I can do this. I can put Dallas, I can go to New York, I can choose 1 day, I can choose 7 days, I can select 30 days. So each of those become my test case, different test case. And I want to see the results of how many hotels and what hotels come up. And is it still working fine? So when you write all those test cases up, you have already tested it, let's say, and you move the code from dev to staging and to production. And you, let's say, have 20 test cases from testing this page. That 20 test cases become part of your regression testing suite. It's called regression testing suite. So also called a regression testing suite, meaning a list or collection of test cases that you are going to test to holistically. This is where the test cases are in regression are holistic, meaning you do the whole thing. You don't do half. You're not sniffing for smoke. You are actually making reservations. Example, make a complete reservation. Sometimes these are called, these tests are often called end-to-end test cases. Okay, end-to-end meaning you start from one end and you go all the way to the other end. Your one end might be right here, typing in all this information, adding all these variables, and then you click find hotels. Finding hotel is still not the other end, because for you to make a complete reservation, you're going to have to wait for this page to show up. And notice there is a lag time right now. It was working better before. Maybe because I got so many windows open that's like acting as multiple users in that server, and server performance is going down. So let me close some of these. And who knows how many other people are making reservations right now. So that's probably also eating up the performance of this application. So let me close more here. I don't know this one. Okay. So now you selecting choose a room, going in, putting a credit card. Obviously, in dev and staging environment, you're going to have fake credit card information and fake customer information. You're going to put all that in there and insert and submit. Then you need to get a booking confirmation. It still doesn't stop there, because after the booking, you're going to go into My Trips and to see if that booking is still accessible by you or not. You see what I mean? That means when you are doing an end-to-end test case, you have to really think, what's the other end? Where do I really stop? If there is more intel to it, if you can be more intuitive, saying, oh no, I need to go in there and check to see even that happened or not just going to stop here. That's what a good QA will do, is go from one end to the other, look for the whole process, whole flow, whether that works or not. Every time a feature is getting developed, you are smoke testing it, you are sanity testing it, and you're creating a full test case of that feature, and you're storing, you're adding that test under this regression testing suite. Regression test tests everything, okay? In other words, testing every feature and functionality. Now, this is done if manual, okay? If manual, this is only, I shouldn't say only, typically, because there's so many different companies will do different requirements. This is typically done in staging. Because of manpower. You're gonna need like 20 people to test this price line. You don't have any automation. And that takes a lot of time and human effort. You don't want to double do it in dev environment and staging environment. Oh my God, you're gonna have to hire another set of people. So you're like, I'm just gonna have them regress this web application in staging only. If everything is good, then we're going to deploy it to production. We're not going to do this in dev environment. Dev environment, they will only ask you to go in, hey, we just added this cruise, go ahead and do a smoke test, go ahead and do a sanity test, and go ahead and do other test cases in here. Go do the end-to-end test cases in here, okay? So probably should add this end-to-end test right here. Maybe make this a number 5. I'm just making this up. There is no norm in here. I think everything is kind of cloudy in the QA fields. There is no proper courses. It's just whoever, whatever. End-to-end test cases would be probably here. End-to-end tests. You're going to hear a lot about this end-to-end tests. Testing a feature from start to finish, making sure the entire feature works. Design test cases from various angles of testing. And a collection of all of that goes under this regression testing. Did I miss anything? Did I confuse anybody? I know that's a lot, and it kind of went back and forth.
I have a question regarding, so end-to-end testing, it says that design test cases from various angle of testing. So this design has been prepared by the business administrator and the project manager or the software programmer, or should it be done by the testing engineers?
It's gonna have to be done by testing engineers.
So end-to-end testing means, the developer has developed the things
Yeah.
that is not using some part of the testing that might be suggested by the testing engineer as well.
Yeah, they're not going to give you any input. And if you ask them, you might get something out of them. But I have never found one good developer who's going to be like, hey, Stein, you need to test this way because it could break like this. They don't even care. Sometimes they don't even know. They don't have that knowledge of testing. That's what makes you the expert. You have to figure out that, he built this, but looks like I'm going to try to put a combination of stuff in here and then search to see if he was smart enough to add that logic of this combination that I'm going to do this. Or did he miss as a human?
So, but the design is prepared by the business administrator to the business analyst together with the project manager or team lead, is it? Sometimes with the help of the developer.
Now understand, the design in the software development lifecycle, that's only the design of how this feature is supposed to look like and how this feature is supposed to act like. But in that design, they never wrote in that SRS document, remember? Software requirement specification document. They did not write anything about that, hey, we should be testing it this way or that way. They did not write that. So that process goes to the STLC, the software testing lifecycle. It only
All right, got it.
only falls on your shoulder. So when you are doing the analysis of STLC, which has nothing to do with the development side, you as a QA, you are thinking, you're going in here doing exploratory testing. You are in that design meeting with them and you see what the product is going to be. And you are like, I think I should have 5 test cases. One is looking from here, the other is doing from this angle and that angle, and so forth. Now, chances are there's probably a 5 or a 6th way of testing this, and we as a human, with our limited knowledge, we may or may not be able to figure that 6th way. Does it mean that we're going to send out bugs? No, we might get lucky. Nobody probably used that 6th combination. Or maybe that 6th combination works. Even though we didn't test it, but it still works. Happens all the time. So in your STLC, you are going to design this end-to-end. Nobody's going to give you an input. You can ask for it. They might give you some information. You're going to find they don't know much. They don't know what you know. Just like you don't know what the developer knows, all that stuff that they're all proud of. You should be proud of your stuff that you're learning here, because honestly, when you try to get their help and you think that they know it all, you're going to find in that industry that they don't. And that's why they need you, because there are experts in every single tiny field and no one person knows it all. And that's what the beauty of this industry is, that we can have a job and get respected for what we know. Okay? Any questions about regression testing? Because this is huge. They will ask you this. You will have to answer to me as a mock interview. What is regression? Anyway, If manual test, this is typically done in staging because there's short of manpower. If you automate them, hey, automation means computer doing things. You don't care if computer is doing it once, twice, in however many environments, because it's not human. The computer is not going to complain to you. So why not run it in dev environment as well? So if automation, the regression is run in all environments. I'm gonna all with the question mark environment and try to pick on you. Ooh. Environment. Why can I not run this regression in all environments? Can somebody think? It's a trick question. All meaning dev, staging, and prod. Let me ask more specific question. Why can I not run all of my regression test cases in the production environment?
I guess if we need the addition of some new features that hasn't been yet developed, so how can we run it to test the end-to-end users?
But just to imagine you have already test cases for the feature that got developed. So why can't I run those test cases in production environment?
Maybe some of the test cases we can't do in automation. We have to do manual.
Not
In the prod,
not
it is
quite.
for the user.
Say it again.
In the prod environment, it is already for the user. They can go access. We can test it over there. You should be doing the staging and the, the first one. What is that called?
Yes.
Developer.
Yes.
Developer.
Yes. What that means, I got a test case to make hotel reservation with a user. They gave me, what happens is they give you this production users, right? Like you got John Miley at yahoo.com, whatever the username is. You get a whole bunch of all these users from production in dev and staging environment. But you don't have their password. All their passwords are faked to have a common password of, let's say, password 1. So you're using all these fake users in dev environment and staging environment. You're using all these fake credit cards in dev environment and staging environment. How are you gonna use the real customer in production environment testing? If you make a reservation in production, you are actually making a reservation. Somebody's credit card is going to get charged. So, does that make sense? You can't do a regression, all of your regression test cases cannot be run in production. Okay. So, you run a selection. Anything that is, let me give you this word, I think this is appropriate time. If automated, the regression is run in dev and staging, only a handful of tests can be run in prod from that automation. Which ones? There is a word called CRUD, C-R-U-D, and it stands for create, read, update, delete. Okay. In short, CRUD, C-R-U-D, CRUD, create, read, update, delete. Create means you're creating a reservation. Read meaning you are reading a reservation. Update, you are going into the reservation, changing the time when you're going to be arriving or departing. Deleting the reservation is that delete. Now, you can only run read type of test cases. With me so far? In production. What's a read type of test case? Something like this. I said I want a hotel. I'm going to go to New York. These are my times. And I have this many adults. And I find hotel. This test case, to make sure, validate that hotels do show up in here, your test case is not only going to check to see if the hotels show up, but your test case is also going to check to see if the hotels are in New York or are they in Pennsylvania. If they are from New York, you're going to pass your test. Let me delete this. And if they are in Pennsylvania, your test fails. Sometimes the page may not load up at all. After 60 seconds, you're going to fail your test case. If it's automated, you're going to wait here 60 seconds. And see this right here? We're sorry, but we're unable to complete your search. That's a problem. That's a bug. Somewhere in something got messed up, and it wasn't able to do this. We just discovered a bug in production. So this test case is a good test case. It's a read-only test case. You have not changed anybody's account permanently. No one is going to know. You could log into Stein's account. I have an account with Priceline. You can go into mine and really try to search up hotels and stuff. I would never know that anybody went in. In fact, in my company, I go into real customers and do a lot of searches and things, but they never know that we did that. But I cannot hit that submit button saying make this reservation, because that will go on the record. That would become one of these create type instead of a read only. Okay, so read only, you're going to hear a lot. I cannot update, I cannot delete, but I can do all of that in dev and staging all day long. Messed up customers as much as I want. Try to break things all I want. You cannot do these kinds of test cases in production environment. Are we good? Any questions? I would just want to throw this term in there right now. I think it's appropriate. It's called graphical user interface. In short, GUI. And in your teams, some people might pronounce it GUI. Others might just say UI. It's the same thing. All of it is the same. And what is it? It's just the pretty face of an application. Okay. What does that mean? This, what you see in Priceline, this is graphical user interface, or GUI, or UI. Anytime I say UI, I mean what you see here in front of you. There is another thing right behind this where the bones are, like the skeleton. That's called API. And I just want to give you that term right now. And that's called Application Programming Interface. Or in short, API. This is the ugly, complicated code behind code layer, layers of code behind a pretty face. Okay, if I want to show you, I already showed you once, right click, inspect, and this is under the hood. It takes a second to show up. There's that code right there. This is just one layer of code. Then there is other things going on these tabs. The developers are expert in this. All these buttons and things that they can do, mess around and check server calls or not. I will give you some rundown in this course, as much as you need to know. Others, you don't at all. Don't panic at all about all this. It doesn't relate to your job as much. Okay, this is called the API, or Application Programming Interface. So you got this GUI, which is a beautiful, pretty face, and you got this API, which is an ugly version of under the hood, all the wires, electrical stuff that are going on.
So is it the API and CLI, that is command line interface, is the same thing?
And no, but I'm glad you brought this up. Let's just say it, because you're going to be using CLI in a couple of weeks later. I'll talk about that, but it's good time to talk about it. So command line interface, in short, CLI. This is a black DOS window. I'm not going to say DOS, you want to confuse you too much. Black window you may have seen when you type something where you write commands. Computer commands. And I have a class that's going to take you there, so I don't want to go too much into it. Here's how it looks like. You all seen this somewhere, either in the TV, in the movies, you know, your husband maybe doing something, typing some stuff in there. Everything that you do on GUI, not on web applications, but let's say Microsoft Word, all of that goes through this command line stuff that you don't do it anymore. Now it's become fancy, you just click buttons. But back in the old days, you had to type in what you wanted that computer to do. If you wanted to create a file, you had to type in right here. If you wanted to delete a file, you had to type in right here. Now you can just click on a button and delete the file. You can right click and delete. All of those were not there before. This is the command line. There are a few things that you do need to learn here, which I will show you in that particular class. Okay? All right. Moving on. Next topic. Why do we need regression? Can someone tell me why? Why do we need to test all the test cases?
For the successful use of any program to the production environment.
So making sure that all components, right? All components got built successfully, or all components operate successfully before you send it to the production environment. That is correct. Also, the idea is that one feature development can break another existing feature. So in a new feature, something that's getting developed can break an existing feature. So if you don't test all your test cases in regression, you're not going to be able to find that. Right? These are the two main reasons. There's a whole lot of others, but I'm just going to leave it at that. You won't need any more. If a recruiter asks you that, just tell them that. Just trying to skip over a few topics that I have here, a couple of other things that they might ask you. Again, guys, these 5 test types are what you need to be really honing on to. These are some extra, other not so common. Test types. You might get asked, I was asked once. One is called ad hoc testing. Random testing done at any given point. What does that mean? That means you're working on this page right here, you're making hotel reservations, and they're like, your manager comes in and says, Parvin, I need your help because I got a team who's actually working on Yahoo emails and stuff, and I got that, I don't have anybody in there, and I need you to just check those for me to see if the page, you can log in as a user or not in that Yahoo account. They pull you over and you take that responsibility, start jumping on it and start working on it. That's called ad hoc testing, meaning anytime, anywhere, there's no rules, just whatever. You're going to find many times that's going to happen. I was given last week, like they told me, look, Stein, I want you to look at the list of production customers and look at the list of staging customers and tell me if they match. So I had to go through like almost 50 something customers and see that there is a mismatch. And I had to report back saying, okay, I got 5 customers in staging that are not in production. And I got 7 customers in production that are not in staging. The rest match. I had to report that to my manager. And then they did whatever they had to do, but that was my task. And those type of testing tasks is called ad hoc. Ad hoc means just no rules, anytime, anywhere. Compatibility testing. You may have heard of this word before, that, hey, my device is not compatible with this or not. And you are actually, in this particular testing, you're trying to validate if one application is working with another application or not. Okay, how do they get along? So it could be code. Is one code working with another code? It could be your Android app, your cell phone, is your Android version 2.0 working with your new Android phone, Samsung, that came in? The testing that is going to be your compatibility testing. Do they get along? So comparing two things, basically. Compare two features, compare two applications to determine if they work or not. There is two things you need to know, because I had the recruiter ask me, and at that time I didn't know the answer. I could make up something, but I wasn't ready. So I was like, I can't answer. I have it in me, but I don't know how to explain this. That was my response. He right after him asking me what is compatibility testing, and I with my answer, he went in, then what is backward compatibility? Compatibility versus forward compatibility testing. And I really suffered in this. My response wasn't good at all. And obviously I didn't get the second interview. So backward and forward compatibility, it's like you ever owning the PlayStation. Let's get an example of PlayStation games. You got this PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and now they have PlayStation 5. But they already made PlayStation 1 games and 2 games and 3 games, and those are all there. What's going to happen to the fate of those games? So what they do is PlayStation 5 is backward compatible, meaning it has something in it that it can go back and use PlayStation 4 games even though it is a PlayStation 5. Make sense? So a system being able to go back and use the old version of something else, having the capacity to be still able to utilize it, it's called backward compatible. So PlayStation 5 is backward compatible. What is forward compatibility testing? You're trying to test to see if PlayStation 3 games work with PlayStation 4 console. Console is that machine where you put the DVD in there. So you are testing these games now. You're trying to see, I got this PlayStation 3 games. Are they designed in a way that if I put it inside PlayStation 4, will they still operate? You are going forward from backward. You're going from 3 to trying to use it in 4. And that's why it's called forward compatibility testing, to see if they work. That's all you need to know. You may or may not get this question.
So my computer says that your computer is suitable for using Windows 11, though I am using Windows 10 version. So does it mean that it is forward compatible?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And that is what that compatibility testing is. So that's a good example. Okay. That's all, guys. We got all our tests covered, the types and everything. Now you are knowledgeable about different types of tests. We're going to go into bugs, and after that, we'll be done for today. And we'll be writing test cases next Saturday. So let's jump into what is a bug. Software bug, not a real bug. Software bug. So bug is a word you can look into the history. Why do they call it a bug? But it is basically an error. Error, a flaw, or a defect happened either during design, could be in design phase, development, or implementation. Phase that needs to be corrected. Okay. So that's a bug. Anytime anything that is out of the ordinary, so any feature not performing as expected, guys, this is big. Expected. I'm going to put all caps here because we're going to, this is what our bread and butter is. Expected. So as expected. If any feature not performing as expected is a bug. Now, this expectation comes from the requirement. If requirement says that if I click here and find hotels, I'm only supposed to see 5 hotels. All right? Only supposed to see 5 hotels. Then, and I see 5 hotels, then it's passed. There's no bugs in it. But requirement says I'm supposed to see 5 hotels, but I see 50 hotels here. Well, that's a bug because it is not what is expected. Because the requirement says I'm supposed to see 5, but look, I'm seeing more than 5 in here. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and more coming right here. In that case, you would report this as a bug saying that my expectation was 5, but now it's showing more. That means the developer did not put a limit on this, and they need to go ahead and fix that. You see how simple it can be? It's not just, oh, things broke and it doesn't work. No, it could be that micro limitations that was provided in that requirement when you gathered it. And that's why you have to look into the requirement and go back and forth to designing your test cases, designing the parameters, and then defining a bug for that particular parameter. Any questions on this? Any comments?
I have a comment. So in some cases, the user, I mean the end user can see the information as per his expectation. Like I would like to see 10 information in one page. Then I can click on 10 to see the 10 information. If I need to see 5 information, it will come only 5. That happens to some web pages.
Yeah. If that is the requirement and that's how it's performing, then there is no bug.
Yeah.
But if the requirement is not that and something else, and it's not performing, user won't be able to tell the difference. User doesn't know how many hotels need to show up on that page. They don't care. They don't really care. But you care because you are more specific. You're testing. The requirement says there should be 5 hotels show up, no more. Unless the user wants to select, like, show me 100 hotels in this one page. In that case, it will be a bug for you. You would have to report this as a bug. Okay? Let's watch this video. Watch this video on this bug and we'll come back to the notes again. Let me jump to
Welcome you all to my YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to talk about a very important topic from interview point of view. If you are applying for the position of software testing, that is the difference between defect, bug, error, and failure. In this video, I will make sure that you guys understand completely, thoroughly the difference between these both, so that you guys don't have to go anywhere else. Let's get started to talk about defect first. So as you know, when developers are developing anything, when they are coding anything, first they will do their unit testing. That is, first they will test in their local setup itself whether functionality is working perfectly fine or not. So when developer is testing something, when they have written the logic and now they are testing the same thing in their local setup, and they're comparing the actual result and the expected result. So when developer is testing something and he finds the difference between the actual behavior and the expected behavior, that leads to the defect. Then he made changes and corrected in the development phase itself. That is called as defect. Now question arises, what do you mean by bug? If tester is testing some application and if they find some mismatch in the application between the actual result and the expected result, that leads to the bug. And also, defect accepted by the developer is called as bug. And also remember, it is an informal name. Bug is an informal name given to the defect. Now, what do you mean by error? Mistakes done in the program while writing the code, because of which developers are not able to either run or compile the code, that is called as error. Now let's talk about what you mean by failure. Once the software is ready, it is tested and verified by our testers, and finally end user or customer, they are facing some issue in the production, that time it is called as failure. I hope this video was useful to you guys. If this is the first of this video, subscribe to my channel software.
All right, guys, I don't want you to pull your hair out on this 4 different words trying to describe one thing. It can go different angles, how you want to define it. Nobody's going to ask you any questions about it, but I just want you to know, just use the word defect, bug, failure, kind of in the same context, that you have an expected behavior, but what you see is not matching your expectation, is where this bug, defect, failure, and error might lie into. Deeper into what is an error is going to come into Java classes. So from week 10, I don't want to go any deeper into this right now. Watch this one. Oops. Excuse me. We talked about Jira, a tool that is used in software engineering, where you record all your workflow and stuff. You record your user stories, your backlog, your sprint data, and so forth. And I will show you real live data from my company in one of the ending weeks when we put everything together. But right now it's going to be bits and pieces. This video is going to show you how to create a bug report. Report, I'm going to be using the word ticket. Whenever you see the word ticket, all I mean is an entry into Jira. So everything that you enter into Jira to create a task is called a ticket and nothing else. So you have bug tickets, meaning you reported the bug in a ticket. That ticket is going to be assigned to somebody who will work on it, and you will keep looking at that ticket to see what else is going on there. If there's anything else you need to add into that ticket, you can add it anytime. The ticket status will change from to do to in progress to for you to test it in QA. You will be able to see all that. So a little bit of that right now is going to be shown in this video, so watch this.
Welcome to Testing World.
So in this session, I'll show you how we can report a defect into the Jira. I'm just log in as a software tester. So TW tester1, that's my tester. I have just logged in as a tester. So I'm going to create a new defect. So I'm going to the create. First of all, I'll show you what functionality I want to test. So I'm coming to my application, that is thetestingworld.com, and here the functionality is, as I select category and subcategory. So subcategory, as we selected, it should display 10 results, but we are not getting 10 results, we are getting only 4 results. So that is a bug. I want to report this defect. So first of all, I am moving to my create defect, and here I'm selecting I want to report a bug. What is summary? So I'm saying searching course does not display correct search result. So here I'm giving basic information about the defect. Summary is the basic information about the defect. And the component, it's a module. So these components are entered by the admin. We will just get all the components which are added by the admin. We can select it. Component, we can understand it, module. Now description. So we need to give complete description about the defect. And I'm giving here like while testing course search functionality, as we select category and subcategory, and click on search, we are not getting expected output. One of the most important part over here is steps to reproduce. So we can enter steps to reproduce. We need to mention all the steps that anybody can perform to reproduce this defect which we are raising. If anybody else want to bring that defect again in the application, just follow these steps. So I'm saying go to application, select category is equal to software testing, and select subcategory is equal to agile. Click on search button. Here I'm just giving expected result. So here my expected result is it should display 10 results, and actual we are getting 4 results. So that's the description we have given. And in description, we are giving the steps to reproduce. That is one of the most important factor while reporting a new defect. So I just mention it over here. Now, fixed version, if you know the version in which this fix should be available, we can select it over here. Else, we can skip it. Priority, it's a high priority defect. Label, I'm just keeping it as a blank. We will understand about the label later. Environment, in which environment you're facing this issue? So I'm facing this issue on Firefox 25. Affected version, so current version is V1 on which I'm getting this issue. Assignee, whom do you want to assign it? I don't know which developer is going to face that, so I'm not assigning it at anyone. Epic and Sprint, I'm just as a blank because as of now, we are not going for the agile understanding. Attachment, one of the most important parts. So as a tester, whenever we are testing anything and we are getting defects, so we should take snapshots. So I'm just selecting software testing, that is fine. I'm selecting agile, again fine, and just click on the search. So whatever the defect you are facing, we can take a screenshot of that. So print screen, I'm just doing, and I'm saving it on a Paint. If you want to show something which should be highlighted, we can show it like this. I'm just saving it with the name like A1, whatever the name you want to give. And the snapshot which you have taken of your defect, I'm coming over here, we can select it from here. So I'm just going to the location where we have saved that a1.png, and snapshot is added to the defect. All the important information we have already filled it. So just click on the create and a new defect will be created, and the number of the defect is MYP22. So I'm just selecting MYP22 and it will display my defect over here. So defect is added to the application and that's a open. Open means that's a new defect which we have just raised. Nobody worked on this defect as of now. So in the session we have seen how we can raise a defect into the Jira.
Guys, I'm going to pause this video right here. Just bring it up here. A couple of things.
That was the one on which.
Don't worry about this version number. Let me cross this off. We'll talk about that later. The priority you need to know. You decide whether this is a major bug or not. If it's a serious bug, you add high priority. If it's something cosmetic, still we can release it to production and fix it later, you put it as a low priority. Assign, if you know which developer coded this part of the application, you can go ahead and assign it to them. Their names are going to show up on the drop-down box when you open up. All of this is going to be set up for you. You just fill out a form. You saw this form is exactly what they will require you to fill out for that bug report. And that's about it. More on this, how he wrote the steps of reproduce and so forth, I will give you hands-on practice later down the road. So any questions about what he did and what is this?
Yes. Jira is just to log the bugs, or it has some other features too?
Jira has a lot of capabilities, meaning it can also kick off your automated test cases and get results from your tests and report it here. But we don't go into that complication in the companies because it's too much. This software is so crazy smart. You can do so many things. And as a matter of fact, if you know how to like figure out these drop downs or which fields to add, if you know the administrative stuff, every company has a individual called Jira admin. Jira admin goes in and creates these boxes in this form. You can customize it for your own company. So, and they make over $120,000, $30,000, and it's really nothing. They don't have any coding skills. All they did is did the training on the software, and they have the admin access to say, hey, I don't want to call this labels. I'm going to call this versions. That's it. So with that much knowledge alone in Jira, you can make money and have a stable job. But for you as a QA, all you have to do is just fill in the form. Once you fill this form in, that ticket is there. It's going to get assigned to somebody. It's going to become a part of the 2-week sprint. Your manager might say, oh my God, this is very urgent. We got to have it done now. And he or she might pull that bug into the current sprint. Remember flashback, if they add a ticket into the current sprint, it's going to it's gonna move the graph. The burn down chart will become more like a burn up chart and might look messy on the graphs, and I'll show you in real later as well. All right. So what happens after you do this? You created a bug. It's a ticket in Jira. Where does it go? Who takes care of it? How are you gonna handle it? When are you gonna retest it? That's the next video, and that should conclude the whole idea. Well, because this bug ticket that you just created, it goes hand in hand, comes back to you, you test it, and if it doesn't work, you send it back again. It seems like there's a cycle going on, and actually it is. Therefore, they have a name called bug life cycle. So that bug has a life cycle for it to move on. And recruiters will ask you about what is a bug life cycle and what are the phases or levels or hands that it moves. You have to kind of describe how this video is going to explain it to you. So watch this.
Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Basic of Service Knowledge Learning. So in today's video, we are going to explore bug life cycle in software development. So let's see what are topics we are going to study today. First, what is a bug? Second, what is a bug life cycle? Third, what are the scenarios when bug is marked as deferred, rejected, and duplicate? And fourth, what is the process when bug is reopened? Okay, so let's see what is a bug. So friends, when software tester performs testing and finds that actual result is not matching to the expected result, then the result is said to be a bug and it needs to be reported. For example, if you have to send an email to a particular person, let's say you have to send an email to person XYZ, okay, and you mark him in a recipient and write some email and click on send button. Then what? That particular email is not received by the XYZ person. In case if it is received by ABC person or the particular email is not delivered to anyone, so it means that that is not working as far as the expected functionality or as far as the expected result. That is said to be a bug. Okay, so let's see what is a bug life cycle. So friends, bug life cycle is also known as a defect life cycle. It is basically displayed the states of the bug from which it goes through its entire line. Okay, so this bug life cycle state transition start as soon as new bug is found by a tester. Okay, so friends, bug life cycle basically contains a different states of bug and their transition, that how a particular bug move from one state to another state. So let's see what all states are there in bug life cycle. So friends, this is basically a bug life cycle flow chart. So here we have new, we have open, assign, fix, retest, closed, reopen, deferred, rejected, duplicate. See, all these are basically a state of a bug. So for example, if a software tester log a bug or create a new bug, okay, then the particular bug moves to a open status. Okay, and software development team lead decide that whom he has to assign that particular bug to fix. Okay, so what he will do, he will see the bug and decide that a particular bug needs to be fixed or it needs to be deferred, rejected, or duplicate. So if he decide that a particular bug is genuine bug and it needs to be fixed, then he assign that bug to a particular developer to fix it. Okay, so once the particular bug is assigned to a particular developer to fix, then developer work on that particular bug, modify the code, and then he fixes the bug. So once the bug gets fixed, then again that particular bug is assigned to the software tester to retest it. Okay, the software tester retests a particular functionality again. So if he finds that a particular bug is not working fine, then what he will do, he will reopen the particular bug. Okay, but if he finds that whatever fix has been done by developer is working fine and the first functionality is working as expected, then he will close the bug. Okay, so this is basically a positive flow where a bug status transition from new to close. Okay, so let's see the new scenario again. So Another scenario is when the bug is reopened. So friends, when the developer fixes the bug from his end, but when tester tests the functionality, or we can say retest the functionality, and he found that the bug is not resolved or not working as expected, then it means that particular bug needs to be reopened. Okay. So friends, if bug is got fixed and it is retesting by a software tester, and he finds that particular bug is not, or we can say the particular functionality is not working as expected, then what he will do, he will reopen the particular bug, then that particular bug will be assigned to a particular developer to fix. Okay, then the particular developer again fix that particular bug. Okay, and then again he give the particular software tester to retest it again, and software tester again retest it. Okay, and if he finds that it is working fine, then he will close it. Otherwise, if he again find that particular fixes is not working as expected, then what he will do, he will open it again. Okay, so if he finds that particular bug fixes is working as expected, then he close the bug. So basically, this is a reopen functionality. It is particular cycle which happens in between a developer and a tester. Developer fix the bug, tester test the fixes. So if fixes work fine, then the particular bug get closed. Otherwise, it will reopen again and again. Okay. So let's see the another scenario. The another scenario is like when can the bug be marked as deferred? Okay. So let's see. Deferred status means that bug will be fixed in a next release. Okay, means that in this release where testing is going on, where development is going on, the bug which is logged by software tester will not be fixed in this release. It will be fixed in next release. This is basically a definition of a deferred, which most of the time interviewer asks at the time of interview. Okay, so for example, tester found a bug, but development lead or project manager or product owner finds that to fix that bug, some new enhancement has to be done in a software, and that will only be developed in next release. Then the bug state is changed to deferred and referred to a next release. So let's understand it's in a bug life cycle. So see, if the particular bug is logged by the software tester and it is in open state, then a development lead or a product owner or a product manager will analyze that particular bug, and if he find that this bug will not be fixed in this release, then what he will do, he will move that particular status to deferred and it will be catered into a next release. Okay, so basically this is a deferred state in a bug life cycle. So friends, the next scenario is when the bug can be marked as rejected. Okay, so friends, if the development team lead feels that the bug is not genuine and there is no need to fix it, so he changed the state of the bug to rejected and close the bug. Okay, so it happens sometimes when software tests a particular functionality and he finds that it is a bug and he logs into a system. Okay, but when it is reviewed by a development team lead and he finds that that bug is not like genuine or something, so what happens? The particular discussion is going between two teams, in a testing team or development team, and after discussion, if it comes to know that this is not a genuine bug, then that particular bug is marked as rejected. Okay, so let's see in bug life cycle. So if the bug is in open state and discussion is going on between a development team and he finds that bug is not genuine, then what he will do, he will mark it as rejected. The state changed to a rejected, and then that particular bug is closed. Okay, so this is basically a cycle that how to reject a bug in a bug tool, or when the particular bug gets rejected. Okay, let's move to a new scenario. The new scenario is duplicate. So when the bug can be marked as duplicate. So if development team lead finds that the same or the same concept bug is already available in bug list or in a bug reporting tool, then he will mark the state of a bug as duplicate and close the bug. Okay, so friends, what happened if software tester log a particular bug with some text? Okay, and what happened in a system, there is already a particular bug of a particular concept with some different text or different content, I can say, but the concept is same, but the bug is same. So what happened, that particular bug is marked as duplicate because system is already having a particular bug. So there is no requirement that of a same concept a system contain a two bug. Okay, so that particular bug will get closed and the previous bug will get catered and fixed by a developer. So let's see in a bug life cycle. See if the bug is in open state, development lead finds that particular bug already exists in a system, then what he will do, he will change the state of a bug to a duplicate, and then he close the particular bug. Okay, friends. So, friends, this is basically a bug life cycle where different condition of a bug has been displayed. So, friends, this is all for this video. I hope this video helped you to understand the bug life cycle.
All right, guys, this concludes our today's class. Any last questions, any closing remarks, any comments? Any questions on this bug life cycle? All right, sounds good. So I'm going to leave you with the homework to do for this week. We talked about that your test cases needs to be organized, needs to be written down, and put it into requirement traceability matrix so you can see if you have any missing holes in your test cases or the angles of tests that you need to develop. All of that is stored and organized in software tools. One of the tool is called TestRail. In my company, I use TestRail, but TestRail is not the only tool that's out there. There are a lot of other tools, which we'll talk about at next class. But I want you to spend this week doing one thing, is watching this video here. This is the last slide of that. And I also have it here. Let me go to that class. You need to go to test types and bugs class. Oh, by the way, this evening, I'm going to post the class notes right under this, right above this homework. And you will see it right here, like the previous class. Videos, I will upload them sometimes this week, Monday, Tuesday or so. It does take time to compress the video, upload it to YouTube, and then adding a link in here. It's not really quick. But this homework on that last slide is also marked right here. Here's the link that you can click on, or you can click on this video. It's going to show you what you need to do to download this free version of TestRail. It's a trial version, so you're only going to be able to use it for 2 weeks. But those 2 weeks is where I'm going to make you, give you hands-on opportunity for you to write and put those test cases there and see how you manage those, see how the requirement traceability matrix looks like hands-on. So when you are asked those questions, you can answer it from your real life experience. So have it ready for next week. If you have any issues downloading this or have any problems, just go ahead and text me on my business number. And if I see a lot of people have issues with this, then what I will do is I will probably set up a weekday evening class where I will go over with this as you follow along and download this into your system. Again, we're not going to start working on this software until next week. So I will probably give you homework to actually type something into the software next weekend. So no rush, but do have it installed. If not, I can still help you out over the weekends, next weekend, to install this for you. Any question before we end the day for today?
Yeah, Steve, can you share the note that you did throughout the class today on the chat box?
Sure, I can copy paste it. It might be a lot.
Please, no problem.
Okay, here's copied and pasted here. Okay, go ahead and I think it didn't allow the whole thing.
No, it's only partial.
Yeah, so I may have to do in chunks. That's okay. Let me do in chunks. Go ahead and copy paste it to yours if you need it right away. But again, I'll post it on the site so you have it. You better copy it now because right after I close the meeting, it's going to be gone. You won't have access to it.
Yeah, please.
You won't have access to it.
Don't go out.
Yeah. So I'll wait a few minutes maybe until you have picked up all these notes. Meanwhile, I'm going to stop the recording.